temporarily can't actually see stuff because I'm literally just doing this where I can. That's not really got a thing there. That's not really got a thing there. I believe that the streams thing here. Oh, actually, let's do that as I very quickly. Places to drop my stuff. YouTube. With a live streams thing. It's one. Chat, yeah, it's good. I'm not missing stuff. Okay, I don't even know what Discords I have anymore to drop links in. Now I just got to drop it on my Twitter. Let's fucking go. Let's do that. Am I logged into here still? If I am, I guess I can just go. I mean, sure. Suddenly, things. I'm just gonna post that and see what happens if I post it there. Fuck it, I'm gonna hit. Well, I hit the ad break now. Fuck it. So that's over. We can actually start. Oh god, it's not gonna actually start until. No, it's done. Began. Good. See how that goes. Oh, at the moment, I'm back in the game. Okay. That works. We just gotta start it up. I have no idea what to expect from this game. Wanted a bit not so straight, I think. Odd, but we'll see how it goes. I'll say. I'm just gonna wait for my thing to say it's done. Maybe done a bit earlier, who knows? Which ads are not reliable for anything. Oh, you can see the mouse. Ooh, I can move it with my PlayStation controller thing. Ooh. Trackpad, ooh. Kind of cool. I'm never going to use that. But it's cool. Okay. Things is done. Time to go. And oh yeah, we're in the Vatican. This way before. Oh god, this is a bit. Okay. Laggy enough, I think. With Yep. Okay. So good news. We're losing. We're losing that. Okay, no camera because my YouTube thing is way too heavy and it's lagging us the hell up. Okay. Good start. I think this is more sort of level. Oh, that's still a bit awful. Eat out my a little. Okay. What's using it? It's Firefox as well. Why is Firefox using such a high percentage? I did kind of fuck it when I bought the CPU, so it's just a problem. Okay. Sure, why not? Let that thing just... Jesus Christ, why is the audio in this game so, Nope, I have to sort my attitude on my fucking computer. Go ahead too low when I had before. Okay, you're going on 70. We'll try 17% and see how that goes. Hello, Andy1998. How are you doing? I'm just going to not be able to see chat for a second because I'm going to restart my Discord, my Firefox, so I can actually see things because it's using a lot of my CPU, which is only a full second. Yeah, my Firefox decided to use every resource it can. Let me just refresh that. So hopefully I kind of fucked up. Oh hey, welcome from Blue Sky. Yeah, I fucked up when I upgraded my PC. I was like, why can't I just get an i3? It's cheap. It's got the same clock speed. Why won't I forgot threads exist. Multiple cores exist. Yeah, okay, now it's fine. It's because I haven't closed Firefox in like 2 weeks. Why is this game so f***ing loud? Let me edit. Sounds in there. I'm already putting it at such a low... Okay, it's down to like 11%. But yeah, I forgot cores thing for CPUs. And then Intel got added to the BDS list after I bought it. I can't afford to reconfigure my entire computer.
In the hands of the earth, than in the hands of man. Uncle, what can I say? We sent a single man against an entire army. I was worried. Quick.
So I don't know what I expected from this game. So yeah, I can't just switch to like AMD now. So it's like I'm gonna have to wait to okay, cool. To find something second hand that's compatible with my computer. Pretty much. So yeah, let's hopefully see it's not too bad. What was it? Yeah, like I played 2 relatively recently, like what, a few months ago. Not quite. And then I was like, okay, Brotherhood, saying 2 is like a big step up from 1 in basically every way. I didn't know how. I knew Brotherhood was still Ezio, which I know is like kind of weird in most of the series. But I don't know what to expect from this. Slightly better graphics, I guess, but other than that, I don't know.
The loss of many lives tonight.
We have a lot of health. Do we start with like, do we maintain a lot of abilities, or do we get Metroided and lose them all for some reason? Yeah, well, yeah. 1 and 2 the only ones I played. Well, I mean, I played a few. I played a little bit of a couple of them, probably like years ago.
God will see you pay for your crimes. You have desecrated the sanctity of this holy place.
You condemn what you do not understand.
We must go, Ezio, now.
Words, this goes.
This is the voice of the devil.
Yeah, welcome to mechanical I never used. A gentle push. Oh, wait, no, I'm meant to be following. Okay. Oh wait, do I literally have to use it to get Mario out? Oh. There you go. Okay, here you go.
Did Rodrigo manage to hurt you?
Barely. My armor blunted his attack.
Right, let me just... No, that made that work. Let me open my OBS so I can actually see what I'm streaming. There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, we got to escape the Vatican out. When I got in here, I was just dedicated to getting into the place. I didn't think I'd have to deal with the consequences of needing to escape.
Be ready to fight.
Oh, hello.
What are you doing?
Oh, okay, yeah. Get ready to fight, jeez.
Saving you from the look of it.
Yeah, I played a lot of, fuck, I don't know, I remember how to...
You still had some
Okay, no, that's how... I remember how to deflect. Good.
Buona questa.
Yeah, I remember that one being quite good, despite a lot of people not liking it, because it was quite buggy at release. I played a bit of that one when it came out, on PS4, I think. Was it the launch PS4 one? I can't remember. I remember it being, quite enjoyable. I have to see when I get to it. I'm like slowly planning to make my way through the entire series, so we'll see how long I stick to that. But yeah. Yeah, it didn't look bad. This is. I think there's a I think there's a remaster of this out. I don't know. This is just like the base game or whatever the base game on Steam is. I'm just using DS for Windows to make my PS4 controller pretend to be an Xbox controller, so I can actually play the game without keyboard and mouse. I'm pretty sure I played the first game keyboard and mouse, which that's an interesting experience. But yeah, no, the other one I played like this, and because I remember that exists. Oh god. Okay, I feel like we're way too broke because I have everything from 2 unlocked, and I'm just like, okay, sure, this is gonna like put it all off us at some point. Hello, Cat who is a wizard. How are you doing today? And as we start the next game in my attempt to play every game in the Assassin's Creed series, slowly and like not necessarily on stream like the previous game I played entirely off stream. Oh fuck. Well, that's fine. Oh, okay, he fucked it up as well. All good. Alright, I forget that's a thing. No, I did play the other previous game like June-ish. I think it was like June. So yeah, I'm not. Maybe it was. Might have even been May. So yeah, it's been a few months. I've got to catch up on all my. I can't remember how the fuck to play. Oh wait, we still have this fucking thing.
This decision is yours alone to make. Only do so quickly. Give it to me. You can do with it as you will later.
Bene.
Yeah, I hit. I assume you came from Church Eastern. So yeah, I did my tribal stuff earlier. As my partner's not on, I can't continue MSQ, so here we are. I've been meaning to get back into stream for a while. Let's just why not start with this? Play these 126. Yeah, you hide and hate and you stab people. That's all you need to know. Glowy orb. What's that about? Who cares? Stabbing people. Oh god, I forgot his fuckboy hair. I keep your hood up, Ezio. I don't like your hair.
Then Minerva talked about the sun. She told of a disaster that occurred long ago,
Okay.
and another that is coming.
Sometime far in the future, Vero. Then we need not worry about it.
See. Perhaps our work is finished.
I'm gonna say the fact this is the start of a game that our work is probably not finished. Oh, that's fine.
We upgraded the arsenal while you were away.
Ah, and it is now customary for you to fire cannonballs at visitors.
My apologies. We only installed them a few days ago. My men are still being trained in their use.
I thought so. You start a new game and then fucking Ezio just gets taken out by a cannonball. That's it. We're just playing new guy time. Oh, damn. Is this the, yeah, I was gonna say, is this like his town that was like our base in the previous game? The bad end.
Welcome back, Ezio.
Okay, yeah, no, this is the place, and it's supposed to say. I assume there's like reused assets, even if they touched up the graphics a bit from
Be home.
how it was in 2.
This place just keeps getting better.
Thanks to you.
Hey, it's all that money I tossed in the box.
Brother.
Claudia. It is good to be home.
I mean, people do look more like humans in this one. People did not look. I feel like the people in 2 looked worse than people in 1, but they look like more like people in this one. So that's a good start.
Nina. Here?
Is it finished then? Is the Spaniard truly dead?
Gather the others in Mario's study tonight. I'll explain everything there.
Steel yourself, Ezio. They will have many.
I don't think I've ever seen a game that it's just like, here's a sequel. You start literally in the boss arena from the final boss. Yeah. Wait, alright, I'm meant to fucking go to all these memories, okay.
Bizarre. What's with him?
Alright, it's about... Yeah, I'm assuming this is what I meant to be doing. I was not paying attention to the story. As much as I probably should have been. It's fine, just stab the people the game tells you to stab and I'll figure out the rest.
Box is heavy.
It must be love. And she must be beautiful.
Need some
Oh, that voice line made it back.
So many flowers. Your husband must be very lucky.
I am the lucky one. I have you here to aid me.
Let me see what I can do.
Back there, I may have given you the wrong impression.
Oh?
I have no husband. The flowers are for a party.
Well,
Am I invited?
this is, is this teaching a mechanic that you can pick up things now, or is this literally just random shit?
I need someone with class to accompany me.
I don't remember having to pick up a thing in the previous game, so I'm assuming this is just new mechanic, which is kind of hilarious that like just picking up a box is a mechanic, but yeah, I know.
Himself would be impressed.
Oh? What do you know of Ezio?
Claudia thinks the world of him, but he rarely visits her. From what I gather, he's distant.
She is right. I have been.
Oh no. You? The party was intended to be a surprise. Promise you will not tell Claudia.
What will you do to keep me quiet?
I am sure I can think of several things.
I'll be waiting to hear them when we get there.
Okay, it's not off-putting at all. Yeah. Caught a random box of flowers, I guess.
Now about earning my silence.
I have something in mind. There is one condition.
Anything.
You must wait until tomorrow.
If it pleases you, I will not stand in your way.
It will be worth the wait.
Yeah, everyone thought that it's a bit. Also, he's also just like a fuckboy, and it's just annoying. Be more stabby and less whatever the fuck cishet men are. Where the fuck? Oh, yeah. Give me a sec. Okay, I forgot that if I forgot that like my computer is quite efficient at warming up a room. I'm running stuff. What are these? Oh, I already have outfits. Okay, well fuck that. Everything that I'm about. Oh, the robes are cool, but now if I don't know what's already equipped. Lose any unsafe. Okay, fuck that. Actually, wait, no, I should be okay. Yeah, if I do that, will it put the hood up? Is My question. Yeah. Right. If I equip this, will I have the hood back up? So I'm tired of seeing this shit hair. Okay, good. He is more pleasant to look at now that I can't actually see any of his features. Oh, okay, there you go. We've done the hay bit, now we just need to do the stabby bit. Wait. There you go. Now I've done both. Ripped that random guy who was completely innocent, but we just killed him anyway. We're the good guys. Then, okay, to be fair, we're not supposed to be doing that. We're not supposed to kill him, so yeah. I'm assuming it's up there. Like, okay. Fuck that ladder. Just really go find out. It's like it's a guy at the front of the thing, isn't it? It's not in here. Oh. Well, if the game ever decides to give us a bow and arrow, we have a place we can shoot from. You're not gonna. Oh, so I have to go through this way. Okay, go through the front door then. Are you? Yeah, I actually see that. I feel like once you, for me, it's like once I know, it's kind of. Oh, cool. A guy lost a horse.
Mario is going to murder me.
We just murdered the Pope, and now we're going to find a horse. This is just like fucking Final Fantasy 14, huh? You murdered the Pope, and now we have to do some random inane task. Oh, it's beat him out. Oh, fuck, I pressed what I thought it was going to be. Why? Yeah, that feels like it's on the way to it. Is he going to just turn back? No. Did you want it? Do you want it back alive, mate? I can. He's dead. Okay. No. Okay. I'll figure out how to mount your bloody horse. No. I'm just going to wait here for it to come back. Yeah, I see. Look, I can even see an eagle vision. Well, that makes it actually really hard to spot. Let's not do that. Oh, is he going to stand there until I try and move it? Oh, what the fucker? Oh my. Okay. Bastard horse. This guy is right, he's a bastard.
Here.
Grazie, Ezio. I can no longer keep up with the horses. Promise me you will enjoy your good health. Do not spend as much time in battle as your Uncle Mario.
My battles have already been won.
That is good news. Arrivederci, Ezio.
I feel like I have really bad news. Unless it is a whole game of just side quests, I have some. I feel like you're gonna have a really rude awakening. Is that something on the wall? Okay. What do I have? Oh, I have all of it. Okay. Where's that horse? Oh, I don't actually know how you. If I can. I think you aim just by holding the sheep, but I don't actually want to wait thing. So fuck it. Joke's cancelled. I can't. I can't follow through. It's not horse anyway. Any more? Where's this? Oh, choose a lift, hold, right trigger, move towards it. What, like I did? I'm gonna call it just worked that time. But why not? Okay. That wasn't in 2, I'm pretty sure. But that's a new edition. Oh, so you're the fucker who shot at me.
These are the new cannons?
Yes, Signor Ezio.
May I try one?
Yes, but... Go on, tell him. We cannot seem to make them work properly, and the fool who mounted them is nowhere to be found.
Then it is up to me to find him.
We do not want to waste your time.
It is not any trouble. I have all the time in the world now.
Find the engineer. Okay. Is he on the wall somewhere? Yes, he's on the wall a bit. You good? You just like junk or something?
Emissary, we need you to fix the cannons on the battlements.
Leave me be. I do not begin repairs before noon.
Oh my god.
Do you know what time it is?
I make cannons, not clocks.
If you are busy, someone else will fix them.
Uno momento. No one else will touch my cannons. Soldiers have no respect for artillery. They expect a gun to work like magic. You need to feel her out. Give her a little encouragement. We are only equipped with simple cannons now, but I got hold of a design.
Yeah, Pence game for time made at France, here is France.
Cannon. Something called a wrought iron murderer. Imagine firing a cannon from
Imagine. Like this.
that is the future.
He didn't see. So I hope I didn't just like shoot a pigeon or something that was over there. I was gonna deal with that one. Okay, go on then.
What have you done? We used them. They were not ready for firing. You could have gotten us all killed. Let me see.
His breath is more fatal than our cannons.
Only when you two fools are shooting them. There, try it.
You did nothing, my dude.
Aim at something to test the alignment.
Oh, okay. Just like that. It's an inflection. Oh, I have to wait for it to reload. Obviously, it's not fucking got an autoloader. That makes sense. It's a fucking cannon. It's easy to move, I think, up much. So I'm just gonna go like. Oh, probably hit him out. Oh, okay, maybe not. Fuck you too.
Aiming mechanism is fine. The problem must be behind the cannon.
I will turn this fucking thing around and shoot you. Okay, it won't let me. He's thought of this and made it so you can't turn it that way. So you can't fucking shoot him for being a dick.
Perfect.
Okay.
At least someone here knows how to shoot. Now, for the other one.
I must go.
Thanks for your help.
Okay.
If you hear the cannons tomorrow, do not worry. We will be practicing at dawn.
Too bad it will not do you any good.
Very fun. Now fix the second cannon.
Okay. No, I'm guessing it's party time or something probably. Yeah, if we check this. Oh, fuck it. Where's my grandmother, I guess.
Stop it! What's the matter with you?
Okay. Oops. Ooh, do we still have like a weird fucking underground area? Underneath like a well somewhere. Okay, I don't know where the wells. Never mind, into the house we go.
Buongiorno, Ezio.
Caterina, to what do I owe the pleasure of your presence here?
I desire an allegiance. The papal armies have resumed their march.
Oh right, I forgot the Pope used to have
Your
like
mercenaries
armies
be
and
a
shit.
great asset to my cause.
It is likely that I can give you what you seek. But we will talk later. Mother.
Okay, the one thing with like people having like human faces now, I don't recognize half the fucking people.
It is done.
I forgot fucking
Not,
Machiavelli's.
I think, as any of us expected. I entered the Vaticano and faced Rodrigo. No! Used the power of the papal staff against me, but I defeated him. Combining the staff and the apple, I gained access to the vault. There, a moving painting of the goddess Minerva spoke.
I guess that's one way to describe the hologram.
Befall mankind in the future, but gives hope of lost temples that will provide aid to humanity. And then she called out to a phantom, Desmond, as if he were there, standing beside me. After her warning, she vanished.
Yeah, the future stuff is just like annoying. It's like a distraction, but seeing like
The vault did not house the terrible weapon we fear.
that was
This is good
an incredible end.
What of this goddess, this Minerva? Did she appear human?
Yes, but her words proved otherwise. All of her kind died many years ago. I wish I could show you the magic she performed.
Who is Desmond? And where are these temples Minerva spoke of?
I do not know.
Oh, incoming ad break because of how Twitch works.
Tell me how it ended with
Want to
Borgia.
get rid of
Did
pre-rolls.
Rodrigo beg forgiveness?
Just a head warning.
Make excuses. Promise power in return.
No, none of those things.
Interesting. I'm surprised he remained so composed.
I let him leave.
The Spaniard lives. Once our enemies are dead, we can speak of vaults.
Oh, you actually kill him? Oh, well, there's that problem.
You should have killed him. We're sure to suffer for it.
I am not here to debate the past. Together, we should discuss the future.
No. I am leaving immediately for Roma.
Ezio, I do not know why you spared him, but I trust your judgment. Machiavelli will come around.
Fucking Machiavelli. I forgot the way they fucking... This game just throw random historical figures at you. Yeah, there's involved. Everyone's on one person's side or another. Is it the door? No, it's upstairs, isn't it? Let's see. Okay, there's the door. Oh, look, it's the paintings I bought. I think I bought them. I can't remember. Okay. Suddenly, The Witcher 3. Okay, no, game. I just told you, he's much better when he's like completely covered. This is not. Okay, jeez. I hope this doesn't get any further. This was a category on. Ready? I did not sign up for fucking this. Okay, is it over? Oh my god. I think I'm allowed to put this on Twitch. I'm too sexual, but it's not good. Guys, Twitch, let me hide that a second. Let's hide the image while it's doing this. Yeah, I'm just gonna hide that image. I'm forced to still see it because if I tab out, it doesn't. The game doesn't progress. Okay. Is it done? No, it's loaded more.
Ready to go again?
Jesus Christ.
You don't need to ask.
You know, I'm gonna run the ad now. Have fun. Oh God, what's that now?
One should always have the freedom to choose.
Dude. OBSY.
Shh. What's that?
Probably just training exercises.
Okay, they're really not good with these cannons, Jesus Christ.
I have to find Mario and rally the troops.
My men are in
How the fuck
I
did
aim
you...
to lead them around back and flank our attackers.
Stay out of sight.
Oh, that's a lot of Okay, geez, I know I said like does he get fucking hit by a cannonball, but that was pretty
How
good.
did we not see this?
They must have massed to the east during the night. We need to hold them off until the townspeople have escaped.
I will take care of it.
Oh, this is fucking bad.
Use the cannons above the rampart. I intend to lead a frontal assault.
Do you have it?
I am keeping it safe. The Borgia must not be allowed to breach the walls until everyone is safely away. Insieme per la vittoria.
I swear to God, if we lose this fucking apple after all the fucking shit we had to do
I will.
to fucking keep it safe in the fucking previous game, I swear to God. So yeah, if you just come back from the ad, yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff changed. Lost or laid. Oh yeah, here you go. We're being Metroided. We're fucking losing everything we had. Oh, sludge knife. Oh, well. I knew that ladder was sure. Man, where the fuck is the cannon? Over there. Push. This is supposed to do a place I spent ages building up in the previous fucking game. Don't know where the enemy cannon is. Oh, those are cannons. Okay. Never mind, I know where those are. This is definitely a way to do a for a sequel, yeah. Here's the town you built up. It's being fucking destroyed. Oh my. Oh, that's not good. I should. That's not.
We can't withstand this attack much longer.
I hit one quad. I can hit two in one hit. Surely. Okay, cool. If I need to turn a bit faster. Okay, this would have been a bit long ago. Okay. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure that the destroying cannons is doing that much for us anymore. Like, I don't see us as successfully doing. Oh wait, how did you survive that? Ah, so as far as I can go. I hope this isn't a fail state if we fucking don't get that there. Oh my god. Apparently I'm bad at shooting cannons. I didn't think that'd be a fail state, but sure. How far back's it gonna put us? Okay, here. Cannon, 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 cannon. Ah. Destroy both, yes. let's, you know, actually get the hits properly, so they're like, so get 2 in each hit. They aren't even loading these things, these ones are just going.
Aim carefully. We can't withstand this attack much longer.
Okay. That's okay. That was a really good shot, actually. I didn't think it was going to be. Okay, well that one's survived. Hopefully that's not gonna fuck us over. Go on, go on, go on. Nice. Still a bit concerned, but nice. Oh, you fucker. Okay, that's a bad sign. Down. Okay.
Some townspeople still haven't escaped. Keep going. Cancel. Da. Almost all the townspeople are outside the walls.
The last 2 people could like really hurry it up a bit. Okay.
Save them. Wait.
Okay.
Soldiers are climbing the walls. Signore, forget the camp. You must stop them. No, I will carry on here. No one shall be spared.
Oh my god. Okay, no, I have to go this way apparently. Oh, press this to let you hit him load. But yeah, I should probably be my sword at this point. They have not have cool sword. Would I use a really cool sword in the attack earlier? Oh no, I can just fucking cut through them pretty easily. That's good. Okay. Oh god, he's got a fuck. Was that his gun? I think they've got fucking guns. Okay. Back at best. Okay, well, somehow we got him through that.
I know you're
That's not
there,
good.
Ezio. The Pope told me about you and your.
Yeah, why did we leave the Pope alive again?
And this.
That feels like a terrible idea.
Give me the gun his friend fashioned for us. We've had too much bloodshed. I think the cleansing is in order.
Oh, good.
So consider this an invitation from my family to yours.
Well, rip Uncle Mario, I guess. What happened to his... Oh. Wait, what? Were we not in armor? Were we not meant to be in armor that whole time? Was it, did I break it by selecting an outfit? We meant to not be in armor that whole time. Because, oh, no, I bet.
I can walk.
Look out! They are coming! Everyone, retreat to the villa!
I cannot fight like this.
Stand with me!
I feel like I accidentally broke it. That's why I was like, yeah, we just, oops. I think that's that guy. we should just get immediately Metroid, like, the second it was possible. Oh, that's a lot of people actually. Over there. Yep, we're just staring through our own mercenary. That's exactly what I wanted. Over execute. Okay, you can't be saying that when you're murdering people. Oh shit.
Get inside the sanctuary. Follow me.
Okay, just kill a bunch of people. All good. How if I can't? Move there. Oh. Congrats. You die. Oh god, more soldiers. I was in. Well, at least got more stabby. This is what I wanted. Oh, I did actually. Oh. Yeah, that's a thing I could have done. Oh well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're not meant to be in like armor or something. Yeah, and I've just completely broken the game and made it think we're wearing it. Because we haven't meant to have access to that, we're not meant to know about that outfit thing yet. But for some reason the game makes it accessible.
I will hold them back.
Stop! Wait for us!
We thought you had been killed, Sir Ezio.
Not yet.
Where does this passage lead?
To the north, outside the walls.
I am surprised it exists. Let me through. I must go help the troops.
With that guy, I guess.
Hurry, Ezio!
Where's Mother? Is she alright?
I am here, Ezio.
Grazie a Dio.
We could not leave without you.
The way out will be dangerous. Protect our mother.
We are doing anything with these. Well, I can't remember what these statues are. Okay, no.
Where is Mario? I thought he would be waiting for us.
The Borgia infantry are circling the town.
Mario is dead. You must leave this place. Take Mother to Firenze. Get me a horse.
You are not coming with us. Where are you riding?
To Roma.
Go, my son. Destroy them.
I felt, yeah, we could have avoided a lot of things if we just killed the Pope.
Assassins fight.
That feels like a big mistake. Yeah, maybe we should have like, dealt with like a gunshot wound. Oh good, you random Uplay shit does show up on the
I
thing.
can't seem to get a position on Ezio's POE.
POE? Could one of you tell me what's going on?
Sorry, Desmond. Piece of Eden. In the Vatican, Minerva talked about other temples, that they're
Why
the
are we
key
in a
to
fan?
preventing whatever terrible thing is about to happen to the Earth.
Right.
You fucking just randomly on something else? Like, hello? I'm pretty sure we're in like a big warehousey
To
place.
find the temples, I'm convinced we need to get our hands on Ezio's Apple of Eden. Minerva altered it somehow when she touched it.
Wait. We're at the Auditore Villa.
Yes, it's our last safe house in Italy. It turns out the Templars are watching the border.
Okay.
Ezio hid the POE sometime in 1507, but when I try to access that DNA sequence, he seems to be remembering something else.
Like a memory inside a memory?
Yes, exactly. Maybe.
Exactly, maybe.
I believe you experienced something similar back at Abstergo, didn't you?
Subject 15 exhibited memory within memory-like patterns, but she was pregnant. The memories of both the fetus's father and mother were competing.
Desmond's not pregnant, at least as far as I can tell. Might just have had a big lunch.
Can you skip ahead to a later memory?
No, it doesn't work.
Well, that sounds familiar. We couldn't access Altair's later memories until Desmond had improved his synchronization.
Then it's possible something similar's occurred here. Ezio's troubled state is being transposed onto Desmond, destabilizing the memory.
Yeah, I'm bored of you just not going to go back to cabin.
Thanks, asshole.
What? I'm simply listing possible explanations. And that is amongst the most likely. Touchy.
This place isn't secure. Cell phone surveillance can see right through the walls.
Don't you mean satellite surveillance?
Are you kidding? Abstergo upgraded to cell towers ages ago. The waves go through everything above ground.
Oh god, no, they're now doing 5G conspiracy theories.
Come with me.
Like a decade before 5G. Is it a decade before 5G? Maybe more. I don't remember when this game came out. I didn't look. The first one was what, 2009? This is what? Maybe 2011? When was 5G introduced?
There's a beam blocking it from the
Oh, really?
inside.
Not quite
Not getting in
a decade then, I guess.
What's her next move?
The road just loops back into the highway. This is not a good place for us to be right now.
Do we have any tarps? We need to cover up the van.
I really hate to stress this, yeah, but we are running out of time.
Well, help us then, Sean. Do you have any ideas?
I don't know. Maybe there's another way into the sanctuary.
Hey, I think I've got something.
Mario. Two.
Follow me.
Hey, why is there still Haydex, you know?
Desmond, that was pretty awesome.
It just felt natural. We can get in through here.
Good job.
We'll just wait up here then, shall we? Yeah, all alone with massive targets painted on our backs.
Why won't this turn on?
It's great to be out of the Animus.
This isn't exactly my idea of a good time.
Well, let me guess. You're more the in-bed at 6 type.
What? Desmond?
Okay, can I get out of the future stuff now?
That's very convincing.
I'm pretty sure they abandoned it in later games, and I can understand why this is just
After we save the world,
an annoying.
Wait, can I get that in writing?
Force me away from the actual game.
we have light.
What was that?
I don't see anything.
Run! Get out before I soldati catch you! Correte! Go!
They escaped through here.
What?
Ezio and the villagers. After the attack, I can see them now.
I know it's difficult, but try to compartmentalize, Desmond. Focus on the present.
What if I can't stop the visions? How long before I start painting symbols on the walls?
Don't joke about that. 16 is dead. We're focusing on the present, okay?
I'm going to go into real quick. Have I got? I said I have BRB. When did I actually make a bit one, or is it just? Cool. It's literally it's a different temper. Okay, no. Quick ad break so I can fill my water a bit back. And back. Okay, I forgot about the future. Don't be in the future. Press any button. Cool. That guy just really fucking rotted there, huh?
Stuck.
I can get under there.
And thus, this person whose name I forgot because I don't care about any future stuff fucking died.
Any chance you can lift that gate?
Not unless you want me to end up like that skeleton.
I'll find a way around.
Okay, cool. It's difficult,
I can drop into the corridor below through here.
Watch out for bats.
Where?
I meant in case you see any.
Remind me not to make you a lookout. Desmond?
More ghosts.
I'm here, okay? Stay with me.
Did anything fall on you?
No. Is Mother all right?
Desmond?
Oh, they're
we
glow
can't climb
sticks. I
this.
didn't know those were.
How about you give me a boost?
That's a bad idea.
I could throw you into the air and you grab the ledge.
Even worse.
Follow me.
Why has he got like the Lib Dem logo on his shirt? Like, oh, it's like that. I'm assuming it's been like an eagle for magic purposes, but let me just find like the Liberal UK Liberal Democrat logo. Let me just save this. Yeah, that would do. So I can put it up on the screen. I can just put an image. Like, I mean, it's not exactly there, but you know, it's not that far off, right? Am I going mad? Desmond Lib Dem confirmed. God, it's fucking be like a toy or something on this god. Right,
How about this?
What are you going to... Nice job.
I aim to please. I wonder how old these tunnels are.
Middle Ages, probably. Luckily, the beams still hold our weight.
After all this time in the Animus, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything, but you're really getting fat.
Ouch.
I even told Rebecca to widen your legs.
Seriously?
No.
Up we go.
Ready.
You know, when I came here last...
When Ezio came here.
Yeah, I meant Ezio.
Shouldn't put you through all this. It's not right.
Hey, all joking aside, I'm having the time of my life.
Just focus on where you're going, okay?
you're in this stuff, eh?
When did this become my job?
If I pulled all the levers,
Oh,
then
my
what would be
fucking
left
God.
for you?
Nothing.
Nice try.
Ready?
Tell us back any interesting time period, are you, please?
Found a switch!
Something's open.
Okay.
I'm stuck over here, but I can see a lever across the water.
Great. Ezio gets a bath with Caterina Sforza, and I get a swim in a toilet.
Oh, hold, okay. Oops.
I've got this one.
There's another lever up ahead. Come over here.
You say come over there, how the fuck?
Follow me.
Let's climb with this thing. Yeah, it's like go, it's gonna just drop, right? Oh god, I'm gonna stop. I can swim, right? Okay, I can't swim, of course.
Oh man, it's freezing.
Stop whining.
It's easy for you to say.
Oh,
You
it's
aren't
from
swimming
15.
in medieval toxic waste. Ugh.
What are you doing, Desmond? Follow me.
Yeah, I'm not them. I can figure out how to get across this thing. It's all being in the present day. It's like fucking me up.
You're exaggerating.
Present day. Well, I guess this is the past as well. Where am I fucking going? I'm just fucking jumping down here. Look. Doesn't feel right. What the fuck am I doing? Oh, have I got to go all the way around? Let's get up. Where am I? Oh, wait. Wait, what the fuck? Game, please. Why? It is up there, which is what it looks like it needs to go to, but I tried jumping right and it didn't work. What am I doing wrong here, chat? Weird. Oh. Yep, no, I see you now.
Remember, this is the time of your life.
Yeah, yeah. Ready?
Go for it.
How come you don't have to get wet?
I would not trust these
Because
mechanisms
you're
to this old.
Charming.
Aren't I?
Oh, never mind, it's
I
two
got you.
people.
Thanks.
Ezio! We're on the other side! Hurry!
Cazzo! Ah! Great, the bridge is out. We can't jump this.
I have an idea. You'll have to help me. Stand at the edge and get ready.
Ready?
Made it! Let me see.
Oh, you go on ahead. I'll just stay here to die in the dark with the bats.
Jump across.
You can control it.
Nice work.
The bats will be disappointed.
For now.
Okay.
Sultan, I have found an entrance.
You'd think these stairs would lead somewhere.
But they don't.
Oh, life is full of disappointments.
Do straight up lead to a door. Come on, guys. Okay, around to here, up the fucking ladder a bit.
I'll wait here.
Good. Let me just go and get that bridge down for you.
I did the last one.
And I'm sure that will be your last one.
Haha, very funny.
Got it!
In my
Thank you,
fucking
Desmond.
Craft Doctor, I can't stand the fucking bantering. Ugh.
Now it's my turn to even the score. There.
Thanks. It's a start.
Hey,
Do your magic.
God. But it's not where I wanted to be, and probably not a good place to be. I've been on this far, I don't think. This way if we go. We shall see. Oh wait, no, this is where we just came, I think. Yeah, for fuck's sake. The wrong way. And reach up over here. So it's not up here. Yeah, I think so. Right, now, yeah, don't fall in the water by accident. Huh? Boxes, sure, why not? Okay, we can climb this. Alright, I see it. I see it again. No! Okay. See, doesn't matter how well I can see it going, I will still manage to misinput enough to fuck me over. And my chair is just collapsing. What is?
Up you go.
Thanks. We make a good team.
Oh. I'm getting a bit tired. I've been awake. Been like a while. Well, we've got to at least get back into the fucking past. Jesus.
I can see the sanctuary.
Oh, hello. That's Yelzen. Oh.
Wow. He looks so old. Ezio must have come back here way after the attack. But why?
Desmond!
Right. Let's open that door.
I guess it's gonna be still bolted and whatever. So that's right now, because he can back in. It shouldn't be bolted the way he just left it.
There's something here.
You guys did it.
About bloody time. What's that?
Looks like something Ezio left behind. There are numbers underneath it. 1419, 1420, and 1421.
Maybe you should lie down for a bit.
No, it's all right. I'm fine.
Whoa, they really built this place to last. No signs of structural damage, no cell signal either. Should be safe to set up. Let's get the Animus down there.
Yeah, we won't see the ominous triangle, okay.
Okay, everything's good here. Sean, hide the van in town, and make sure you aren't followed.
What is that smell?
It's my clothes.
They smell like you swam through a sewer.
It was Lucy's idea.
Wait a second, guys. We need power down here. There's a line running nearby I can hook into, but the wattage is weak.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Anything else you two would like? You know, some caviar perhaps? Maybe you'd like me to knit you a lovely hat? No? Fine. Follow me.
God, no, just put me back into the fucking thing. Oh my god. Why? Games had significantly more time outside the Animus, and it is going down in my rankings accordingly. For every extra minute, it's keeping me out of the fucking interesting part of the game.
Right, look around Monte Regione for circuit boxes. Rebecca's little doodahs, they'll reroute small amounts of electricity to the power line underneath the villa. Don't ask me how they work. If I understood that, I wouldn't be the fella hiding the van.
Figured that one out. I figured that one was done. I've been eagle vision. Okay, fine. Sure, that's how circuit boxes work. That's how those work. Outside gas. So fucking. Oh my god. On the outside, I don't know anything else anymore on the fucking inside. Life. Oh, no, it's legit. I ain't this way in here. Okay, cool. I have to find out some small things. Let's do all our flat parts in it. I found one. It's fucking another one. You know what? You know, it's annoying to come back to this. I think we'll take the opportunity to actually end off here. Let me just find someone to raid real quick. The tab. Who do I know who's on my? Well, close enough. Yeah, so thank you for coming. We'll see you next time, hopefully. Yeah.
I just got it equal war. But I think I will try and go for